With The Undertaker's loss to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33 seeming to be his last match, a lot of fans are left sadly disappointed while others are arguing that it's best to go out on your back. However, is that necessarily true? Some will say that it's old school to end your career by going out on your back, claiming that wrestlers like Terry Funk and Scott Hall will say that wins and losses don't matter, so you might as well do what's best for the company and just do business. But in contrast to that, you have old school guys like Jim Cornette who say there's nothing wrong with a legendary career ending while going out on top. Now, I'm not trying to say there aren't plenty of wrestlers who ended their careers by looking up at the lights, but what I am saying is I'm not sure it's quite as old school a mentality as people claim. And I just happen to have a list of 10 wrestlers that prove exactly that, because today, Dave knows 10 wrestlers that didn't end their careers by going out on their backs. Number 10, Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, if you're a Scott Hall fan, I'm sure this comes as no surprise. Scott Hall has even said he doesn't particularly care for Bret criticizing him for the fact that Bret really liked winning instead of just doing business. So if that's really true, then it should come as no shock that Bret won his last match. In fact, he won his last several. Now, Bret's last match was not Starrcade 1999 like a lot of people think it was. Now, yes, this was the match that ended Bret's career. Unfortunately, Bret didn't realize the severity of his injury right away. Bret's actual last match for WCW was a no contest against Kevin Nash. And no, he didn't lose it, but he didn't exactly win it either. And so while Bret's full-time career was definitely at an end, and this would be his last match for WCW, Bret still had a couple of matches left in him. But we would have to wait 10 years before Bret would step foot in the ring again, and he did so against Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 26, which he won. And Bret wasn't done yet, because he would go on to win the United States title off of The Miz, he would relinquish it soon thereafter, and he would continue to be a participant in tag team matches, being victorious as a part of John Cena's team at SummerSlam, and also teaming up with the Hart Dynasty, D.H. Smith and T.J. Wilson at a Madison Square Garden house show. Now, Bret's actual final match was when he teamed up with John Cena to take on the team of Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez, and yet again, Bret was victorious. Number 9, Mr. Perfect. Curt Hennig was one of the best wrestlers of all time, and sadly, his last match really doesn't live up to his legacy. And after all, outside of Perfect, there was nothing really going on in this match that was any good. It was being booked by Vince Russo, and it was against David Flair. And the match was an axe handle on a pole match. Now, this was back in the early days of TNA, back in 2003, and while the match was terrible, some people might be able to take comfort in the fact that at least Perfect won his last one. Number 8, Bruno Sammartino. Now, Bruno Sammartino's final match was against Larry Zbyszko, his longtime rival, in 2005. Hey, did I actually just say 2005? That can't be right. It was 2005? Okay, just checking. Alright, Bruno didn't win that match, but he also didn't lose it either. However, if we go back almost 20 years, we'll see that the last couple of matches before that, Bruno definitely walked away with the W. Now, what's weird is what WWE counts as Bruno Sammartino's last match. It was a house show at Madison Square Garden. Bruno Sammartino teamed up with Tito Santana, and they took on the team of Randy Savage and Adrian Adonis, and Bruno and Tito were victorious. But what's odd is that after this house show, Bruno actually went on to wrestle several more matches for the WWF that just aren't counted for some reason, including a match at the 1986 King of the Ring, as well as a Toronto house show where he picked up a win over the Natural Butch Reed. Next up, Roddy Piper. Piper's last match was for JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, at a show called Legends and Icons. He teamed up with Cowboy Bob Orton and they took on the team of Mick Foley and Terry Funk. And now, while they did win this match, I know what many of you are thinking. Does this mean Cowboy Bob Orton's final match was also a win? Well, last I heard, Cowboy Bob Orton is still wrestling out there, and I heard he's using the RKO as a finisher. So believe it or not, Cowboy Bob's last match may not have happened yet. Number 6. Taz. Now, Taz and Jerry Lawler have had a long-standing rivalry dating all the way back to the original ECW invasion in 1996. Now, for it to come to a close, we would have to wait about 10 years later for Taz's actual final match, which was at the second ECW One Night Stand. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird that there's 2 one-night stands. Now, this would be the last time we ever see the human suplex machine inside of the square circle as a competitor, but at least he walked out of it picking up a submission victory over the king, Jerry Lawler. Number 5, Macho Man Randy Savage. Now, the Macho Man's final match came at TNA Turning Point, where he teamed up with AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy to take on the team of Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. Macho's team was victorious, and this was supposed to lead into a feud between Savage and Jarrett for the title. However, health issues prevented this from happening. And while we don't know how this feud was supposed to go down, what we do know for sure is that Randy Savage won his final match by pinning good old Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Next up, Mick Foley. Mrs. Foley's baby boy's final match for the WWF was the 2012 Royal Rumble, and no, he didn't win it. However, leading up to that, he had to win a qualifying match, and he did, teaming with Hornswoggle to defeat the Highlanders. Okay, fine, he didn't win his last WWF match, but he did win his last match ever, which was the Omega event Night of a Champion that happened on February 28, 2015. And it was a singles match where he defeated his opponent, Mickey Gambino. Number 3. Hulk Hogan. Just like so many on this list, Hulk Hogan's last match was for TNA, and it was a 6-man tag match with the Hulkster teaming up with Sting and James Storm, and they were victorious against a team of Bully Ray, Kurt Angle, and Bobby Roode. Man, that is an interesting mix. Number 2. Terry Funk. Yep, a guy who's almost made a career out of retirement matches alone definitely should be an expert on the subject. Now, while he has lost plenty of his retirement matches, his actual final match, he came out with a victory as he teamed up with Tommy Dreamer to take on the team of Lance Storm and Sean Waltman. And while that does seem like it's going to be Terry Funk's last match, you can never tell. But that does remind me, because Terry Funk's many retirement matches are a great example of what some people say is actually the real reason it's best to go out on your back, is because it gives you a reason to return. It gives you a reason to come back and get revenge. And Terry Funk has definitely made more than a few comebacks, but who knows? Maybe his next match he'll actually retire by going out on his back. We'll just have to wait and see. And number 1, Scott Hall. That's right, Mr. Wins and Losses Don't Matter turns out really doesn't even practice what he preaches. Now, Scott Hall's last singles matches happened in the World Wrestling Council, where he actually won the WWC's Universal Championship. He picked up the strap in a 3-way dance against Carlito and Apollo, and this would only be the second time in his entire career that a company would give him their top belt. And you're about to find out why so many companies didn't trust him with their top prize. Because unlike Bret Hart in the United States title, Scott Hall didn't vacate the belt right away. In fact, he actually successfully defended it several times, including a match against up-and-coming wrestler Eddie Colon. And I know what you're thinking, if he won the title, that must mean that he lost it at some point in time too, right? Well, not exactly. He was actually stripped of the title after no showing, having never put over the new up-and-coming guy. And if you're thinking this is an isolated incident, well, this is not Scott Hall's final match either. His last match happened in TNA, when he rejoined the company in 2007 and he reteamed with Kevin Nash. Because of legal issues, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were actually stripped of the tag titles, meaning Scott Hall officially won his last match ever and didn't go out on his back. So by Scott Hall rationale, Bret Hart was probably better off no showing Survivor Series 1997. After all, another company was offering him more money. But hey, what do you want from a guy who criticizes Bret Hart for always wanting to win? Meanwhile, he's good friends with Triple H. Well, there you go, there's my list, and with all that being said, I'm still a huge Scott Hall fan, alright? I'm just saying. Anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and this has been Dave No.